And I'll make you a co-host as well. There we go. Perfect. All right, cool. So we've got a good enough group. We could just start now, and that way we'll have a good hour to kind of fill in for questions and Q&A at the end and everything like that, which should be fun. Um, just as a good introduction to you, this is our Saga team, and then it opens up to all communication design students at CSUN here in Northridge. And basically what we've been doing is bringing along folks who are either recommended by students or myself and other faculty, really to just kind of broaden their horizons, show them kind of folks that are doing maybe jobs that they were looking at down the road or somewhere they'd like to be down the road. And also just to give that insight, it's thankfully we're seeing a good resource of jobs kind of popping up, and we're hearing a lot from our alumni that they're doing great. But also most of these students will be graduating either in 6 months to a year and a half, if not a little bit more. But any advice and good stuff you could share with them, that now that you can look back and say, like, man, if I had this in my portfolio, I'd be gangbusters, right? Like, all the things that you've kind of learned and stuff. And you could take us through, your journey as a creative as well. But I do want to, before introducing you, I'm going to hand it over really quick to Mario, because Mario was a student that kind of brought you to my attention. So Mario, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you really dug about Alex's work and why he inspired you to make the call?
So everybody, my name is Mario. I'm here obviously with Saga, but I actually reached out with Alex on the end of last semester. I wanted him to come with Saga, but it was already late, so that's what Monte told me. Because I'm actually
Good.
into sports design, and obviously LA is right here in downtown. So I was like, you know what? I even might, well, obviously my future is to be a sports designer, especially for LAFC or whatever's out there. I like, you know what? Let me reach out. I actually just tracked down who was a sports designer in LAFC, so that's what Alex spoke about, and that's when I messaged him to find out like questions like mostly all of us have. But yeah, he works with LAFC, and I think he says he also works with LeBron James, but he will probably uh go into detail with that. But yeah, he's actually a chill person. Even though I met him once, he's like, I feel like he's a homie already. But yeah,
Awesome,
but
man.
I
Well, that's
learned.
great.
Uh, Thank you.
You got it. Thanks again for doing that, bro. And Alex, so it's all yours, man. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you're at, what you're doing, and I know you got some cool stuff to share with us. So, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, first I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody here. I mean, the fact that y'all would want to have me on here is pretty insane to me. And I think this is something so new to me. I've never really been a guest speaker, but I think the one thing that hits super close to home to me, especially about this group, is that I'm born and raised in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up right around here, CSUN. I, funny enough, didn't go to CSUN, but I know it like the back of my hand. Trust me, I spent many days in the OVIAT library doing graphic design just because I was just so happened to be on campus. My partner went there, my friends all went there. So CSUN definitely has a special place in my heart. And yeah, I mean, being a graphic designer, especially from the Valley, and seeing so many people who are at CSUN and also aspiring to get a career in graphic design, it makes me so happy because I feel like the stigma of design for so long, especially having a career in design, was always viewed as this like oddity. And to see so many people now breaking that stigma and challenging it and saying, look, my art is representative of me and I can make a career out of this because it's important, quite frankly, is really cool to me. So just wanted to shout all of you out for, pursuing this and really showcasing your art. But yeah, I'm a graphic designer at LAFC. Mario alluded to working with LeBron. I did work for a short time at Uninterrupted, which is LeBron and Maverick Carter's, I'd say, agency. They do a lot of shows on HBO, like The Shop, and they also handle another IP, which is the Spring Hill Company, which handles a lot of stuff like you might have seen over the summer, such as Space Jam or Naomi Osaka's Netflix documentary. But primarily my time goes to LAFC. So yeah, I mean, I've always considered myself to be a creative person. I think my father was the first person to ever really put it into me. He was the one that would always draw and doodle on like papers, and I always thought that that was a really interesting thing. You know, he was showing me in a way what was going on in his mind through these drawings. And I think that a lot of the time I just found myself saying, like, I wonder what I would be putting on these papers. So didn't really pay too much attention to it as a kid, as I'm sure most of us don't really have those crazy deep thoughts. But just went on, and I didn't really go into that creative lane again until I was in middle school, and I started taking elective classes that were all pretty much art. And I remember just being really excited to take anything creative. You know, I was happy to learn a new style every week. I was happy to just be exposed to something that I wasn't being widely exposed to already. So I got super into it, and up to the point, and for those of you from the Valley, I went to Bird Middle School, and I eventually ended up going to Poly, which is right across the street. But I was so set on wanting to go to art school, like for high school, immediately after. And I remember telling my mom, like, this is something I'd love to pursue. And being a first generation Latino in the US and being an only child at that, they quickly shut that one down and were like, nope, you gotta do something else. Like, this can be your hobby, but you can't do this. And I was like, well, I mean, that sucks. So I ended up going to Poly High School, and you know, I really was just super excited to try and figure out what that lane of creativity was going to be for me. If it wasn't art school, how could I still express it? So I tried everything and anything creative. I was doing like music, and I was doing like beat making, and like, needless to say, I'm not any of those currently. So it clearly didn't work out. But I, and luckily enough, met enough people through that scene and was able to make a lot of connections. And I realized that one thing that a lot of these people needed were flyers or cover art. And I was just like, all right, well, I don't have a laptop on me at the time. So what do I do? I grabbed my phone and I downloaded a ton of apps. I downloaded like Fonto and PixArt. I didn't even know that the Adobe apps were on like the Apple Store at the time. So
So
I
you
was just
started
doing a
on the
lot.
phone.
Yeah, it was really, really crazy to me because I didn't really ever think that you could do this kind of stuff on your phone. So through that, I started doing graphic design for a friend of mine's band, and just a little bit of flyers and just quick stuff on the fly. Things that I personally, I mean, you won't see any of that stuff in my portfolio by any means. But
You can show us. We won't show anybody.
oh yeah, no, trust me, you will see it. You will see it.
Oh,
But
good.
it definitely opened my eyes to the fact that it was something that I viewed as like, this is a necessity to people. People need design in their lives. If it's something as simple as a, you know, album cover or as a flyer for an event, like, it's needed. And I was really intrigued by that. And the fact that these people in this community that I had were, you know, kind of hyping me up in the sense to do it was really strange for me, because I still had that mentality of like, look, I have to go to college and I have to figure it out, and I'm gonna have to face the world head on. And sure enough, that came, and I ended up going to San Francisco State University, and it was very different because I was a 17-year-old at the time, and I had only really ever been in the Valley for most of my life, and going out up there and really being on my own was a little bit frightening, because it's like you kind of have to face that whole ecosystem over there of being in college and being around so many people who are competitive and are trying to get ahead, really. So it was very intimidating at the time. And I went in as a business administration major, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was like, all right, business, money, that's great. And I was like, this will be super fun. And it wasn't. And I lost count of how many times I ended up going into my counselor's office just trying to say, like, look, what major can I switch to that isn't going to just make me be here for like 8 or something years, like crazy. So she ended up talking to me, and I was like, look, I want to do something that's not so numbers and, you know, X's and O's, and just I want to do something that's fun, but also will be pretty, you know, make me successful, so to speak. And we settled on marketing, and I went through with it for about 3 or so years. And through that time, I didn't really ever touch a computer for graphic design. I was just doing all sorts of, marketing related assignments. And one day, I was just really just so set on like trying to get back into that environment of graphic design. And I just opened up and I downloaded Photoshop on my computer. And then before you know it, I was just making like lineup graphics and like score graphics for a fictitious soccer team that we played on FIFA with. So my roommates and I would get together, play. I'd take our headshots and put it all in these crazy custom lineup cards. And it was like my way of just saying like, wow, this would be kind of cool if I did this for like a team or whatever. But yeah, to that point, I've always been a sports fan. I grew up with Liga MX and football in my house since I was a kid. And if it wasn't every weekend, it was during the week when the Mexican national team would play. And if it wasn't when they were playing, I was playing, Sunday league. And soccer was always a sport that was, around whether I knew it or not. And it sucked that I had to go to San Francisco right when LAFC was brewing. And it being such a relatively young team, it fascinated me how quickly they were to capture the community of Los Angeles and that of, just sports fans in LA. And I always kept an eye out. I was so sad I wasn't able to make it out to a lot of games. And soon enough, I went to my first match and I fell in love. I said, there is no other place I would want to be other than in these stands every other week if I could. And I ended up making a lot of friends and everybody was super, super nice. And through that, I ended up, if for those who aren't familiar, joining the 3252, which is their supporter group union of a bunch of, if you've ever seen a game, there's a bunch of crazy people with the flags and smoke and drums and all that, but it's a great time and I love it. And I started doing design work for the supporter group I was in, including merchandise, flyers, and little by little, I started feeling like I was getting into a groove. Like, okay, this is something that I feel is, it's rewarding to me. I find it to be this passion and it comes easy. So before you know it, I ended up doing a couple more things for the group and eventually the 3252 at a larger scale. And one summer, it just felt like everything kind of clicked. And I was still going to school as a marketing major. And this entire summer, I've been networking and, well, not knowingly really networking, just meeting a ton of people and going to these games and doing all these designs. And the question soon kind of came up due to one of the people that I met, Rich Orozco, who's the EVP of marketing. And he kind of asked me like, is this something that you would want to do at a larger scale? And I was like, you're kidding, man. Like I'm not a major in this. I hope you know that I'm not like in any way, shape or form, like on paper equipped to take the job you're going to offer me. And he's just like, no, just, I see what the vision is that you have. Like, if it's something that comes up in the future, like, is it something you want to do? And I said, of course. So fast forward to August, and I'm in a really awkward position where I have to make that choice if I want to go back to school. And quite frankly, I didn't know how much I had left to pursue marketing or take a risk and go all in on LAFC and say, this has to work for me. So needless to say, I took the risk and it was intimidating at first. I definitely felt like a small fish, and not because of anybody in the organization, but because of the self-doubt that I had and the intimidation that I felt going into, quite frankly, professional sports organization in one of the biggest markets in the country. And I didn't really know what to expect. I remember telling myself, like, I love LAFC's design, everything prior to me like coming on board, I was just in love with. And being able to work with their current or their designer at the time and now art director, Jeff Parrish, like, I was like, this is someone I look up to at a design level. And to now be working alongside him is really insane. And it felt like almost he took me on as like this mentorship and apprentice role where he saw that I had the eye for this, but I had to learn all the technical things. And for those of you who love The Office or watch The Office and have seen the episode where Michael the whole threat level midnight movie, and he's like he's learning how to skate, and then he's like, well, just mop, like if you know how to mop, then you're gonna know how to skate. So simply through that, I was able to pick up on the tips and tricks that he taught me and really just go all in. And ever since, I've been at LAFC now since 2019, and it's been quite the ride. For those of you looking to get into sports, it's definitely, I'd say, an industry that is very, I don't want to say chaotic, because it definitely can be, but it's not always chaotic. It's definitely something that will fluctuate a lot, as time passes. But it's one of those things that you just have to always keep in mind, that the unexpected is going to happen. You're going to be working on projects that are insane in like a cool way, because you'd never think you'd be in this position in the first place. So one thing I want to say is just it's quite the industry to work in. It's very fun, and it's also honestly sometimes an opportunity to advocate for change and advocate for a lot of positivity. So very excited to see what and hear what all of you have to ask and really are interested in.
That's great, dude. Like, it's so neat to hear that story where you got in some way where it's not like you were 100% target and tried to go for them, but by just means of what you were doing, you had exposure and someone saw that and took a chance on you in a way where you didn't have the traditional degree and that other stuff. But I can only imagine the confidence and imposter syndrome thing was probably a bigger hurdle than anything at
Yeah,
that point, What was
abs-
your main, knowing you were going in there with a little bit of like, not like you said, not on paper, what did you have to prove?
it felt like everything. You're going into it with no degree and not really much of the technical side of it. So it felt like every day at the end, at least for the first week, I felt like I would sit at my desk at the end of the day and say, why am I here? Like, I don't know really what I'm doing right now. And I found that the more that I fought against that thought, the more I started to tell myself, look, you know what, like, someone saw something and I'm here because of that reason. And the more that I embraced that uphill battle in my head, the more rewarding each step felt.
Sure.
Because there was a point in time where, I wasn't really asking for help, or I wasn't, needing to go back and tinker with things as much as I did probably the first week. So it was definitely difficult to try to not only just prove to those in the organization, but to myself that I did deserve to be there because of the work that I put in. And definitely when you said imposter syndrome, I mean, it was very difficult because I didn't really know what imposter syndrome really was at a design level until I got there. And suddenly it's like, okay, like, let's set up a mood board or something. And then I'm looking at all these references, and it's like, I didn't know how to take influence from all of that without feeling like I was just straight copying everything. And it was a really tough thing to deal with at first, because, you want to be as original as possible, and you want to really, take on all of these tasks and execute them as best as you can. But when you have that little bit of doubt in your mind, that's like, man, what if people think this is like too much like this? Or
Hmm.
why am I not doing designs at the level of this other team? You start to have so many scenarios in your head that starts to affect your work. And luckily our club has a great support system, from, our VP of creative, Marcus, to Jeff, our art director. We all zone in and really huddle to make the most, the best possible product that we could put out, while also keeping both our physical, mental health in check, and also our creative aspirations in check.
Awesome. Cool. You want to show some stuff now, and then we can get into a little Q&A afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
So let
perfect,
me
man.
share my screen. Let's see. Oh, having a bit of an issue real quick, but shouldn't be
No
too bad.
worries. I gave you the host thing, right? You got that ready to go? co-host?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just saying that I might have to quit and reopen it. But if so, I could just hop in
All
and
right.
out real quick.
All right.
One sec.
All right. We'll give him a second. I guess he's just got to restart for the permission to share. So give it 1 second, guys.
While we're waiting for
Yeah.
Alex to join, if you if you're on Saga, go ahead and check the message board tonight. We're having a poll, and then if you haven't done the introductions post yet, go ahead and do that.
Oh, perfect. Thanks for letting us know. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Alex, you back?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
perfect. All
letting
right.
me.
Go for it, dude.
Awesome. Yeah. So can everybody see my screen?
There we go. Oh, look at this
Awesome.
guy. Look at this guy. Custom slides for tonight. I love it.
How to make sure I had something. But
Cool.
yeah,
Go for it,
so
man.
as I mentioned, I definitely did some stuff for my friends' bands in high school. I definitely was very selective and probably picked the better looking items of the bunch. It's definitely a little peek to just show what I was doing on my phone at the time.
Great.
So their band was called the May Runners. The picture on the left is just a EP that they put out, and the one on the right is a tour announcement that they had. This was all on my phone. I had no idea what a clipping mask was at the time, and I definitely just had to like put all of those I had cropped all of the rectangles, not even evenly, as you can probably see on the photo, but it was something that I was like, all right, I like the layout. And the type at the time for bands of that genre was very similar to what you see on that right hand poster. But just a very quick little insight into some of the earlier stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
This right here is really funny because this is the stuff that I was doing initially before I had even thought of LAFC as like a job opportunity or anything like that. And at the time I was like, this is awesome. I love this. And now like I look back at it and I'm just like, oh man, I would have done so many things differently. And I think as I've kind of progressed and I've been doing this for a while now, it's something that you always want to take into consideration. When you can go back and look at your work and say that kind of stuff, that's the type of growth that you want to see, like in yourself as well. Not just be like, oh, like that sucked. I'll never do that. That's not me anymore. It's like, no, that was me at a point, and this is how far I've came. So this is just some of the earlier stuff that I was doing that eventually had some people, get some eyes on what I was doing design wise. And these were actually some of the first two tasks that I had at LAFC. And I think that a lot of the misconceptions that people have about being a sports designer is that you're always going to be making the flashy posters and you're always going to be making all that super cool, fun stuff that people see on game day or on social media. But oftentimes you get stuck with things like partnerships and contractual obligations
Got to pay
and
the bills, right?
yeah, and it's a side of sports that not a lot of people see. So while you do get to do all the fun match day posters and the shoe collaborations and all of that stuff, you do have to, do the not so fun stuff, quote unquote, the partnership decks and all of the match day promo and presentation and meet and greets and stuff like that. So it was something that definitely helped me grasp the fundamentals of design, I think, a lot more, getting handed these quote unquote simple but not really all that exciting tasks. And it's definitely a way to help get you more into that mindset of, look, this isn't always going to be, like I said, all of those flashy designs, but it's going to be pretty basic stuff and you just have to knock it out. And on the flip side of that, you get to do some pretty cool stuff. This was probably one of my favorites of my first season, especially because it was such a historic season. And honestly, we won probably anything and everything but the MLS Cup. And being able to crown a coach of the year and MVP was pretty surreal. And funny enough, the design on the left wasn't even really something I did for the team. I had done it just as a more artistic piece on the side. And then I think it was one of the people on the club saw it and was like, we should totally just make this a graphic for the team. And lo and behold, it ended up going on all of our socials, and I think it was one of the most, interacted with posts, as well as the MVP post year. And it
Nice.
was definitely my first taste at having that bit of creativity and freedom to do what you want within the organization. Because once you, start doing, like, say, the Curacao posts and, tune in posts, you start to gain trust within the organization, and they start to see, what you could bring to the table. So when something like this pops up, they're inclined to say, you know what, that's a great idea, and they follow through with it. This is, oh, I misput that one. So this one right here is our 2020 season. And for those of you who, I mean, it's no secret to anybody, 2020 was crazy. And it felt like, if I had to say, one word to represent 2020, it would be burnout, because it felt like we went from being a sports team for the first 3 months to now being, this voice for everything that's going on COVID related. And through all of that, we kind of forgot about the sport in a sense, because we became so community oriented up until, well, we never really stopped, but it didn't look like we were a sports team on social up until July, when the
Yeah.
MLS's back tournament started. And it was a really crazy opportunity for us, because for the first time ever, all of these graphics were being made to promote matches that weren't going to have fans and weren't even going to be played in Los Angeles. So these were the graphics that were for the bubble in Orlando. And we wanted it to feel like there was some sort of, element that it felt like you were getting a physical card. Even if you weren't going to go watch this match in person, you kind of felt, at least digitally, you were getting that same feel. So being able to go and create these assets was definitely a highlight of the 2020 season. It set the standard, I think, for this year, that we wanted to get a little crazier and start, exploring in different territories. But it was definitely something really interesting and fun to play with. This one right here is for our 2021 season. We definitely wanted to go a little bit more with the movie theme that, we obviously know and love here in Los Angeles. Movies and the Hollywood, the industry is massive. So we wanted to pay a little bit of homage to that. And, our left-hand poster is probably my favorite one to date that we've done. We're all pretty big fans of Star Wars, and, being able to play against our crosstown rivals in the galaxy, it was a no-brainer for us to do this one. And it honestly felt like this one probably took the longest time to complete. It was probably like a 3 or 4 day, time that we were just like going at it for a couple of hours, but it was definitely well worth it at the end. And the one on the right, I love Atlanta. For those of you who love Donald Glover, Atlanta is definitely a great show. And if you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. But doing a flip on that while we were over there in Atlanta was pretty fun. And to see so many of their fans even receive it very well was pretty cool. And something that's a little bit more exclusive, I definitely wanted to give a little behind the scenes look at something, was this right here. And I just wanted to kind of walk through this process and really show where an idea starts and kind of where it ends up leading
Great.
to. So for those of you who are super into cards, Topps is definitely, the big name. And Tyson Beck was designing quite a lot of Topps cards for a lot of players in the NBA, like Jason Tatum. I think he might have done one for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Every name that you could think of in basketball, he's probably done. So baseball as well. And we were really inspired by this style. And we were set out to say, look, we want to replicate that card effect. And let's use this photo right here of Ken Griffey Jr. to use it as our base of inspiration. And I'm not sure if you could probably go in a little further, but yeah, we started off our 2020 theme. We were really trying to incorporate maps a lot. If you ever look back at our socials, 2020 was littered with a map of Los Angeles across all of our assets. But we wanted to showcase quite a couple of key players. This was something early at the time that we were working on. We wanted to have Carlos Vela. We wanted to have Diego Rossi. We wanted to have that Orlando map in the background to kind of capture the same elements that were in the background of this Ken Griffey Jr. card. Not quite as simple as that, a little bit more messy, I'd say, on our end, but we were trying to take some inspiration, but also grow on that and try to add our own flavor to it. As it evolves, eventually we ended up adding the Epcot Center Ball, which, I mean, it's in Orlando. We're in the bubble. We got to do it. So we added a couple more players, added Mark Anthony Kay, who's no longer with us, and Eddie Segura, Diego Rossi, who's not with us anymore as well. But these were our guys going into this tournament. We had no idea Carlos was not going to go to the tournament, by the way. So we were kind of a little bit of miscommunication on that part. But we were so set on having this feel like this tropical now meshed with a map design. And while we kept fine tuning it, we said it might not be enough to just have the design exist on this little card holder that you see right there. So eventually we ended up adding a border with a little bit of a nice little ribbon and the return, the name of the tournament on the top. A little quick LA hit right there, and gives it that traditional sports card feel, something that you could pack in maybe, you know, any type of card that you open. So a little, you know, fun. It was a nice little adaptation that we had for this, and we were just really excited. And it was definitely, I think, one of the signature pieces for us that year, and we were really stoked to share it with everybody. And I think that one was it.
Cool. And what a cool idea to show. I love the idea of just showing inspiration process, kind of like the idea of where it would go and maybe even the parts that didn't work. And then how did you get it to kind of finally become one, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool. That's really cool. What would you say is kind of like your biggest surprise of the real world design world prior to being there?
The
Maybe
biggest
like
surprise.
area of concern, something you didn't think would be a part of the day to day, you know, kind of reality checks.
I would definitely say that the involvement you have with other departments was definitely a big
Hmm.
reality check for me. You know, you always think that you're just going to have requests come in and they're going to give you every single detail down to the specs, and they're going to tell you, okay, this is what you have to create, just send it back over, and that's it. But the involvement that you have with a lot of departments like ticketing, partnership marketing, you know, even supporters or some people that are in video and photography, you really have to learn how to understand their world in order to provide the absolute best designs, I think. Because when you start to think about the design through a ticketing perspective, they're wanting something high energy that pushes, you know, the person's attention to whatever the event is. So you maybe want to go with a high energy, you know, shot of photography in your design, or, you know, use perhaps, you know, our home color, which, you know, a lot of people love. So it's knowing how to put yourself in other people's shoes and how to also maintain that level of good design when creating.
Cool. Sebastian, you want to ask your question? Go for it, man.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, how's it going, man?
So I wanted to ask, just when approaching new projects or when you usually have something coming your way, what questions do you usually like to ask yourself or the client, or where does your head kind of go to when you're thinking about something you never really approached before?
Yeah, I like to definitely ask the client, what is your goal with this? Is it to, and more exactly in my world of sports, like, is it to push tickets? Is it to draw attention to like a sign up? Or, just finding out the purpose of what the client is asking for, I think is key for me always. You always want to have in mind what they want, but also like going back to, designing and being your own individual. You also want to know, how to apply your level of design into that project. So, if it's something, say, like a quick turnaround flyer, you're probably not going to take the more artistic route and focus more on the information that's presented. But if it's something that's a little bit more flashy that the client is asking for, then definitely want to focus more on that aspect of the design.
Cool. Anybody have a question they want to ask now? We can start it up. So if you want, either go for it, Juan.
Hey Alex, how you doing? My name is Juan. I have a
How's it going,
question.
man?
As far as well, I'm actually trying to get into like the sports design industry. As far as like any advice or tips for my portfolio, what do you like recommend to like work on? I'm actually doing passionate like sports posters right now, but are there like any other things that you would suggest or?
Yeah, I think the route that most people that I see go is definitely the posters and the match day posters. I would recommend trying to like have it vary a bit, especially with something maybe like a stats graphic or something, you know, that showcases a little bit more of the tamer side of the sport. I think maybe having it be something a little bit more like photo centered rather than just so strictly designed. Obviously, while like getting consent and all that from the photographers, but like having it be more than just like the match day poster, whether it's something in stats or whether it's something a little bit more animated, or if it's something like a collage too. I think there's no real right answer for this one, because I think everything that you can put in your portfolio that showcases your versatility is going to help you a lot.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else? Any other questions for Alex? Feel free to ask away.
I have a quick one.
Go for it,
go.
Bailey.
Hi, Alex. I was
Hi.
just wondering which portfolio platform you use, which one you like the best.
I, funny enough, use Squarespace just because I wanted to set up my whole site all up on there. And I think it's more practical, personally speaking, because, you know, the templates are there and you're able to customize it little by little. And it's not something super complicated, like, you know, web design, so to speak. But I've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things about Behance. People love showcasing their work on there. So I would definitely say Squarespace or Behance.
You mean you didn't build it on your phone? Knowing you, you'd find some app and do it on your phone. Just perfect enough.
I'm so excited for the day I can do everything on my phone.
Yeah, they have XD on your phone. That's not too bad.
That's right. Yeah.
It's getting there.
One of
these
Learned
days.
about it last semester.
I think for sure you could do both the Wix and the Squarespace editor on your iPad.
On mobile. Yeah.
And mobile as well. Yeah. Which the screen's just beyond challenging, but yeah, I get that idea. And I think you bring up a good point too, because if you can't, you know, obviously the most of them have the Creative Cloud, and then Behance is part of that, which is great. But if you want to spend a few extra bucks and the flexibility of something like Squarespace, and then down the road that can continue. Like what's great about all those platforms is how nice they are set up, where if you ever want to make your own merch and put that on there, or set up a shop for something, or sell some of your work, you can have it all there, and appointment setting and you name it, it's all in there, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and to that point too, if especially if you're looking into do anything related with ecom, like all of the payment systems are integrated in there and super easy to connect to whatever account that you need to, you know, get the funds to. So yeah, I think Squarespace all around. I've been using it now for 3 to 4 years, but I've not run into many problems, and it's a relatively affordable platform as well.
Perfect. Anybody else? Any other questions? What do you guys got?
I have a question. Hi, Alex.
Go for it.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. So I know you got into LAFC like kind of directly, but how does someone apply to if they want to get in the organization?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question, because I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I would recommend just keeping an eye out on places like LinkedIn, and really just not like over vigilantly looking out, you know, but just making sure that you're monitoring, you know, places like that. Definitely, that's how I got in touch with Uninterrupted. I just saw a job opening and I was like, let me just take a shot at it, and it kind of ended up working. But networking is also pretty big. I think that the quality of the connections that you make, you know, even if it's a good interaction at a match, or if it's something, you know, like even as casual, oh, you're wearing an LAFC hat, and you spark up a conversation. You just never know who those people might be that plug you into places. And if you're looking to just apply, I would definitely keep an eye on LinkedIn, like I said, and then Teamwork Online. They are great for sports teams. They will message you like openings. Like I got a couple for Austin FC, and for, I believe it was like the Chargers or the Rams at a time. So they'll be pretty good at messaging you directly if there's anything that opens up that matches what you have on their site. So definitely LinkedIn and definitely Teamwork Online.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions, guys? Keep rolling.
Yeah, I have a question if I can.
Yeah, go for it,
ahead.
Andy.
Hey, how's it going, man? My name is Andy. Nice to meet you. I just wanted to know, like, because I'm not a student per se. I'm like I'm an alumni. I just crashed over here because I was like, oh damn, a soccer designer. Like, I really want to meet him. It was nice to meet
Appreciate
you.
that.
I kind of took the same route too. Like, I was, doing sports design, like up until I kind of like found a different route. I'm still in design, but like what kind of like stuff do you do on your personal time? Like when you're not designing for your job, like to kind of enhance your abilities as a sports designer and stuff, I feel like you said, like a lot of people kind of take it as more of like a hobby, but like once you kind of get down to like the nitty gritty, like, it's a skill you have to learn. So like what kind of stuff would you like recommend for like honing in on it and really practicing it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was taught at LAFC the first probably year that I was there is find passion projects. You're gonna find that once you cling on to something like that, it's gonna feel so natural, and the ability to express yourself in that project is gonna be so much more easy because it just doesn't feel like a project really. Personally, I like to take up freelance clients. So I've worked with Universal Music on a couple of projects. I've worked with Uninterrupted and LeBron on some projects as well. And just having those projects that I feel like are able to nitty gritty. It's true. It is. It really is a nitty gritty. But I feel like once you're able to tap into something that you're so passionate about, or like for example, the Universal Music, I had done a series of posters for Legacy 75, which was a series to honor Bob Marley's 75th anniversary. And I think I loved Bob's music, but I had no idea about the layers that were so deep. And learning about Bob's culture, learning about, just the real messaging behind his music and the real complexity of it, not only just, in his specific region, but across the world was mind blowing to me. And to be able to work so closely with the Marley family and people that were involved on this project was something that grew into a passion for me. So I would just encourage you to, find the things that you feel like you want to pursue and find the things that you feel like are going to be a rewarding project, both, for your portfolio, so to speak, or for just you as a person. I like, for one, even freelancing aside, like my friends run a podcast and I really sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the cover. I don't want to do this. But sometimes it's like that needed escape from your routine that you need to kind of keep you in check, so to speak. So yeah, those are just some of the ways that I go about it.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else?
Yo, Alex,
Yo, what's up, man?
do you have any of the Bob Marley work that you've done? Can you show us some?
Yeah. Let me pull that up.
Good call.
I do want to see. I want to see what.
I want to see too.
I love Marley. I love his music.
Hey, Alex, is most of your work done on Photoshop?
Yeah, it's a combination of Photoshop. Well, pretty much everything is on Photoshop that I like start building out. Occasionally I'll start plugging in like things that I'll design in Illustrator if it's a little bit more of like a customized thing that I have to do. On the occasion, I'll use InDesign. It's not really something that I use frequently, but if it's something like, say like a deck or a brochure that we're designing, InDesign's always the go-to. I've messed around with XD and Figma quite a bit, but nothing really to really keep me going on there as of yet. But After Effects is still another one too, that I'm always trying to keep getting better at. I feel like the one thing I learned early on at LAFC too is like you're never going to stop learning with all these programs. So it's definitely always cool to try and poke your head in each one. But yeah, to answer your question, the main two I'm using all the time are Illustrator and Photoshop.
All right, let's see those Marley
Sick. All right, so this was the series pretty much right here. It was really interesting because we didn't really do this chronologically. The first one that we ever did was this righteousness poster. And we wanted to kind of have a little bit of that like hand-drawn like painting effect. And it was interesting because at first I kind of wanted it to be a different color. It wasn't even the red of, you know, the Rasta colors, but as soon as like the Marley family was just like, would you mind putting a red background on it? I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna say no to red background. I love me some red. But as soon as we saw that, that's when they kind of bought in and were like, yeah, this is the right tone that we want to kind of set for the series. Um, Personally, my favorite, one of some of my favorite, if I had to pick like a top three, is this one right here, episode 2, Women Rising. I think that, you know, the imagery of this was very powerful, and all the episodes are all up on YouTube. I encourage y'all to check it out. It's a really great series. Um, but just being able to showcase the power and emotion and the women of Bob's life that were, you know, very involved in a lot of, you know, the way that, you know, he expressed himself was very important for us to capture in this poster. So it was a real fun one, and definitely a challenge as well. My personal favorite of all of them, I mean, footy is my passion. So being able to have an episode about Bob and football was massive for me. I personally didn't know that he was a big football fan. So I think that discovering that layer of him and being able to design this was really fun. Um, I tossed on a lot of Ziggy's music while I was making this. And I remember like this was the first ideation of it, and I had sent it over and I was so terrified. I was like, I don't know, it feels too simple. Like I don't know if I like it. I don't know. And like I got a call from the pretty much like the mediator between the Marley family and I. And he was like, dude, this is it. Don't touch it anymore. This is the poster. This is great. And I like never sighed a bigger sigh of relief. I was like, wow, this is crazy, because all of this doubt in it, but I was just so in love with it. The more and more I look at it, it's mind blowing to me sometimes that this even made it out. So definitely that one. And then the water and earth one. I've grown up, like I suck at skating, but I love skate culture. I swear it's probably one of the traits that I still want to pick up. But being able to understand, you know, um, being able to understand the skate culture of Jamaica is pretty wild. Seeing how important surf and skate to them is, to the point that they're building makeshift skate parks in trenches, is wild. So being able to see that through the episode and have a guy like Boo Johnson from out here just go over there and really experience that was cool. So, you know, to be able to make that connection between land and water and earth really is cool. So it was a great episode. Just for the rest of that, this is Bob in London right here. This was more of a collage piece. It was probably one of the crazier ones we did. The client really wanted to have this like collage of like Chuck D, Earth Gang, Malcolm X. I'm blanking out on the name of the woman, which is horrible that I am, but you know, Bob Marley as well in the background. And this was such an episode that was just very powerful. And I think that it came in the midst of a very, you know, tough time with all of the systemic racism and injustice that was happening in our country last year. And it was a challenging one to do. And especially as a non-Black person to take on this task, I had to check in and say, look, are you sure that this is the task you want me to take? And with the guidance of a lot of, you know, Black bodies and a lot of Black folk who approved of this, I think it made me feel better to be able to bring that vision they had to life. But nevertheless, it's one that I don't attribute fully to myself, because it was such a collaborative effort from a lot of people to be able to get this end result right here. And this last one right here, the Legacy 75 and 76, because this one got pushed to this year, was probably one of the more interesting ones. They wanted chaos and punk rock in this one. And as someone who listened to punk music and hardcore as a kid, this was one that I had a lot of fun with. Bob, I know, is known as a reggae artist by a lot. And many don't know the punk side of him and the ability that he had to express what sounds like aggression, but is really a powerful message through his music. So this was a fun one as well, and definitely a little bit more of a different take than what we had done previously in the series. But we've got, I think, a couple more on the way. Hopefully, we're looking to push those out by the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to see what direction we kind of go in.
Nice, man. That's so cool to see. Nice. Anybody else have any questions?
It's not really a question. It's more about Alex. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Hey, question. Well, it is a question. Okay, so I see that I guess the organization is going to be involved in like a career fair soon, correct? I just want to make sure that that your organization is going to be involved in a career fair like really soon. Like I got an email from Teamwork Online, so I'm trying to figure out whether that's true or are you going to be there or something?
Job fairs usually are handled by more of like the stadium ops team and some recruiters that we have within LAFC. I'm not sure what exactly they're hiring for, but I think for the time being, they might be looking for some additional support in stadium with their operations team. So just game day stuff and security and additional, things, but definitely keep an eye out for those because it's not always going to be stadium stuff. They'll usually have a pretty good description whenever they promote it. So just keep an eye out for that and just make sure that if there's something that grabs your eye, definitely go to it.
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I had another quick question.
Yeah, go for it, Andy.
Yep.
What does like a day look like for you? Like, I assume it's not like a traditional like 9 to 5. I'm behind my desk all day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure you like game work on the weekends and stuff like that, right?
Compared to Dunder Mifflin, where you're at.
Right.
Funny enough, working in office at LAFC feels a lot like Dunder Mifflin.
You don't want to burst everyone's bubble, right? But it's kind of the real deal exists, right? It's
Yeah, like you definitely get the Michael Scotts and the Dwights and a couple
the
Stanleys.
Angelas.
Yeah, the Angelas. Oh man. But I feel like I'm slowly becoming the Angela with all the cats. Definitely. But yeah, COVID has definitely shifted the way that the workday looks like. And I think me personally, I used to think I was the type of person that loved to be out until we had to stay inside. And now I realized, wow, I like working from home a lot more. Definitely, like you said, it's not the 9 to 5. You can kind of work your way around, I think, the day, just depending on what you feel your workload is. Personally, I try to get my work day started at 9 just to try and, get everything out early in the morning, see what needs to be addressed during the day, and try to end 4:30 to 5. With sports, I mean, it's like you're kind of on the clock all the time, really, because, things happen in snaps. So if a player gets traded or there's an announcement that needs to be made, like a good example is today we had our updated COVID stadium mandate go out. So we kind of had a bit of a rush request to put out a graphic to just inform the public of what's going to be required to go into our stadium now. So yeah, it's always like you're on the clock, but for the sake of mental health and just taking that step, I think establishing boundaries is also super important. Being able to say, look, weekends or a day out of the week I'm going to take to spend time on myself or with family or friends or whatever is super important. So as much as you're like kind of anticipating something to happen, I think people within the organization are also mindful that we're people, we got lives outside of our work. So it's definitely, at least that's the vibe at LAFC.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Go for it.
It's similar to one that was posted in the comments earlier, which is like about the actual design process. So I know LAFC usually like in their social media posts and like at their stadiums, they usually make like the match day posters, like you said, and like the lineups and all that. But I was curious, what's the process for like the posters and graphics for other events? Because I know they do like meetups and stuff like that, and even like on their I forget if it's like their official like social media or like their gaming one where they put like more like comic book style graphics. Like what's the process like for that? Like how does it start? Like who do you like, what departments do you talk with? Like how long does it
Yeah,
take
so
usually?
yeah, for match day, like the comic style posters or movie style posters, those are something that we kind of we took that step to initiate doing that because it's sort of our creative freedom every week. Like we really get to dive in and kind of not fully go against the brand guidelines, but do something that's a little bit different than the traditional graphics that you see, on our day-to-day feed. So when it comes to that, we usually try to get it down like a week in advance. So for instance, we have a game on the 16th against San Jose, and we're just starting to pull the references for that poster, which will probably start tomorrow or Monday, and hope to have finalized by, I'd say, Wednesday. The actual design part of it, I'd say, depending on how intricate the poster is, it could be up to 3 days, or it could be a single 3 to 4 hour sit down. And sometimes we get really just super into it. And by we, I mean the art director, Jeff, and I, we kind of go back and forth on some notes. And every single time, it's just a blast to be able to do those. So yeah, anytime from 4 hours to probably 3 days, depending on the complexity. That Galaxy Star Wars one that I showed earlier was definitely one of the 3 day ones. It was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of tinkering, I think, to try and stay as true to the reference as possible. Especially with these movie themed posters, you want to be very on the nose with the reference. But as far as all these other things go, as far as lineups, we're very templatized with certain things. Lineups we definitely try to keep very organized and templatized down to player positions, to formations. So the stuff that you see, coming in on game day, lineup specifically, we get those probably 30 minutes before kickoff, and we got to work a little quick, but it's definitely one of the more important pieces of the day. So with it being so templatized, it's not super stressful or anything.
Alex, one quick question. Are they going to fire Bob Bradley?
Ooh, no comment, man. all I gotta say, my personal opinion, I know a lot of people are Bob out, but
is Carlos Vela gonna leave?
We got a DP slot open at the end of the window. We're gonna make a big splash and watch MLS Cup 2021. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. And Mbappe to LAFC. All right, you heard it here first.
Let me ask you this: if a new position was open to join your team, what would you and the team, other than a candidate's portfolio, really be looking at? What would make your wish list?
Definitely, it's not an essential, but if you have a knowledge of the sport, it definitely helps. A little bit of familiarity with the team goes a long way. Especially, I noticed this with a lot of the freelance photo editors that we have. Those who have a little bit of knowledge of the team and its players have an easier time photo tagging live during the game than instead of someone who might have to ask the question of who's number 7 or who's number 10,
sure,
etc. So having some knowledge of the sport or players definitely helps. And someone who's just passionate about what they do. I think, portfolio aside, we're a team that really takes pride on. I mean, I'd like to consider myself one of those people that was taking a chance on. And there's not many organizations that will be as risky to do that. But with LAFC, I think that we're an organization that we live it in the stands, and we live it, in our organization. We're a 90+ organization. Once the whistle blows, the job's not over, and we look after each other almost as a family. And it's kind of the cheesy thing to say, because I feel like every job will tell you, oh, we're a family, but it really does feel like the connections that you make there are very genuine. So having someone that has that same level of genuine intention and passion about their work goes a long way with our organization. And I can say that very, very proudly, that a lot of the people there, if not everyone, is very passionate about what they do, and it doesn't feel like a job to many people.
Nice. Yeah, it's those extra things, man. Like, it's like the stuff that, like, I think that makes the difference when it comes to being in an interview and being up against a few candidates. You start thinking about that person's going to join our culture, join our, our team. And it's little things like that and that good insight that can help them kind of start building those strengths pretty well.
Yeah. I saw Andy had a question in the chat. How often do you work with the players? We tend to work with them in media day, which is just our once a year taking photos of them and posing them into shots that we might want to use throughout the season. They're all pretty nice guys. I mean, I think a lot of people sometimes forget that they're people, like it's really weird to see them in a setting that's not on the field. So, they're all real cool people. They definitely interact with the stuff that we do. They're all good. They're all good folks. And it's not super often that we get to interact with them on a day-to-day basis now because of COVID and all the guidelines. But when we do, it's always, you always get a funny story or two.
Nice. One last question. Anybody else?
Do you still see yourself working with the LAFC in 5 years, or maybe change to another team, or doing still both?
Yeah, for the time being, I think LAFC is my long-term goal. There's definitely a lot of things on the horizon that we're super excited to share with everybody that I didn't even think we would be doing as quickly as we were. So just seeing the direction that the team is heading both on the field and off the field, it's exciting to think where we're going to be in 5 years. I think so many times we forget that this team has only been around since officially 2014 and only been playing since 2018. So there's still a lot of history to be written. And I think it's a great organization. They provide great support. And truthfully, I think that the only way LAFC can go from especially a season like this is up. So definitely excited to see what 5 years at LAFC looks like.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, room for one more if anybody wants to drop another question in. I've never had to cut off questions, Alex, so you're doing good.
Thank you. No, I'm all for it.
Do you have a question maybe for them, like that a few of them can answer?
Yeah, I mean, I personally I just love to know what kind of work all y'all do, and just what exactly interests you as design. I think when I think about design, I get super excited, and I'm just like, there's so many possibilities because there's just so much to do, and there's so many creative ventures and outlets you can take. So yeah, I just love to open up the floor to just hopefully meet a couple of you virtually and just understand a little bit of your world as well.
Yeah, if anyone wants to take a shot at that, answer however you can, Oh, see.
Hey, Alex.
Go for it, man.
Alex. Yeah, I have one. Well, I'm from Mexico. She's from Mexico City, and I would like to tell you that I am a very good fan from your work, and
thank you, man.
I would like to know, have you ever thought about be involved in the NFT universe?
Oh man, that is a great question because we have battled with this one for a long time. NFTs are insane to me. The fact that some of them go for the price that they do is mind-blowing. And sometimes the things that are NFTs are mind-blowing. Like I saw someone sold a blank pixel for millions of dollars, and I was like, I need to start taking random pictures of anything and seeing what hits.
Sure.
So, but to the flip side of that, there is a real valuable side of NFTs and the future of, what that could hold for art. And I think we explored the idea when we did the trading cards. Sadly, I think there was some formalities that weren't allowing us to really pursue that. But from a personal standpoint, it's definitely something that I need to do more research on. But it's something very interesting. I love it. I love the concept of it. It's crazy.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. It's kind of mind-blowing to see it in its infancy and where it can go right now. I still don't get it, but I'm open to be persuaded. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, for sure too. Awesome. We'd love later in the semester and maybe even next semester, we do a big portfolio review day. So it'll be something we'd love to have you come join in, and students will make appointments with you virtually, or if we're back to campus by then, and you get a chance to meet with a good 6 to 7 students, help them out with their portfolio and everything. I think you'd offer such a really unique kind of perspective on it, not coming the traditional route. I think that would help round out just everybody that we have for this event. So you're more than welcome to join, and I'll definitely reach out to you when then.
Yeah, absolutely. I again want to just reiterate, it's been an absolute pleasure to come, and be able to talk in front of all of you, and definitely something I want to do. I think that even to think about, I haven't been back to CSUN. I don't even know if Fruity and Sip is still a thing. That's
It
when
is.
I was still going, but yeah, it was like so long ago, and to be able to go now and be able to interact with design students would be such an honor. It's really rad, and the best of luck to all of you. I will say that the route you're going in, there is never a set in stone route to get to your end result. Like the route you're on, if you're killing it at what you do, there's no limit to what you guys can accomplish. I mean, it's really the one industry that I feel like, it sounds really like cheesy, but all of the wildest imagination that you could probably have, you could probably get to with your design, career and your aspirations. So, there's not a written path. So don't feel like you have to follow something crazy traditional or even do what I did. I definitely don't recommend that. It's really crazy. But yeah, I mean, I just want to wish you all the best of luck, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all at a game pretty soon.
Perfect, man. I was going to ask you for that one bit of last advice, and you covered it. So that was perfect, man.
Yeah.
Thanks again, man.
Thank you,
Everybody,
Alex.
give him a big round of applause. You can turn your mics on if you need to. But thanks again, dude. That was fantastic. You're definitely a part of the CSUN Saga and Communication Design family now, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, if anybody has any sort of questions or just wants to have a chat, feel free to reach out. I'll drop my Instagram in the comments. I'll shoot you guys a follow, and just feel free to message me with any added questions you might have.
Super appreciate that. You might get inundated with it, so be careful. But it means a lot for everybody to have not only what we try to do for them, but these outside resources. It means the world to have you guys kind of want to help them and stuff. So I'm super thankful for that as well, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's all about I would have wished I even figuring out what I was doing design wise. I wish I would have had that knowledge. So for me, it's not even a question that I have to think about in my head. It's just I love to be able to just share any sort of insight I have. So again, feel free to reach out, and thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks again, brother. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Have a good night. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Cool. And guys,
What's
if you're
the Instagram?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you put it.
Actually, Alex, I just found you on LinkedIn too, so you'll get a follow from me.
There you go. That's the professional way to get them. On
platform,
Instagram, you're going to
feel
talk
free.
about the sports. If you get them on LinkedIn, it's like talk about business.
Oh man, yeah, it's AC NoHo. I'm putting it on the chat. That should be it across the board. So just feel free to reach out.
Cool, man. All right, buddy. Thanks again, dude.
Okay,
And if you're an officer of Saga, stick around. We'll continue on really quick. But thanks everybody else for joining. We had a great turnout for you, bro. That was great.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
you guys.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks.
Thank
All right,
you.
cool.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, take your time.
See ya.
Yeah, take a quick little break. Mario, are you staying on with us or?
No, I gotta go. My
You gotta
class
go
started
for
at
sure.
6 with Solis.
No
All right,
worries.
thank you though.
Great job on that, buddy.
Yeah,
For
really
sure,
good
thank
job.
you. Bye.
Awesome.
10,000 kudo points for that one.
That was
It was
wonderful.
super nice.
So good.